The giant space station hung in the darkness like a crystal flower. It spun slowly around a dead star that glowed with cold light. Inside the station, 12 different types of aliens sat around a table made of pure energy. They called themselves the Hegemony Council, and they had ruled most of the galaxy for thousands of years. Admiral Zekthara stood at the front of the room. He was tall and gray with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red in the dim light. His people, the Vorthok, were known as the best fighters in the galaxy. Today he looked worried. "We have a problem," he said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "There is a new species that has learned to travel between stars. They call themselves humans." The other council members shifted in their seats. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others looked like walking trees or floating jellyfish. But they all understood what this meant. New species were always dangerous. Until they learned the rules, Dr. Plix floated in the air near the table. She was made of pure energy and belonged to a race called the Ethereal Collective. Her job was to study other life forms and decide if they were dangerous. "Tell us about these humans," said Counselor Nefter. He looked like a giant crystal spider and spoke with a voice like breaking glass, Dr. Plix's energy. Body flickered as she began her report. "They come from a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. They call it Earth. 50 years ago, they learned how to travel faster than light. Since then, they have built homes on 14 different worlds. 14 worlds in 50 years. Admiral Zekthara's red eyes grew brighter. That is very fast for a new species. "Yes," Dr. Plix agreed. "But that is not the worst part. These humans do not have one government. They have hundreds of different groups that fight with each other. Some are countries. Some are companies. Some are just groups of people with weapons." The council members made sounds of concern. A species without one ruler was hard to control. "Show us their technology," said Counselor Telvin. He looked like a wise old tree with a face in his bark. Dr. Plix waved her energy hand and pictures appeared in the air above the table. Pictures showed human spaceships. They looked crude and simple compared to the beautiful ships the Hegemony used. "Their ships use atomic rockets," Dr. Plix explained. "Very basic. They have no energy shields, no energy weapons. They fight with metal bullets and atomic bombs. Their computers are barely intelligent." Admiral Zekthara studied the pictures. The human ships looked like flying boxes made of metal and ceramic. They had no graceful curves or elegant designs. They looked like tools built by people who only cared if they worked. "What about their biology?" asked Dr. Quinth, who looked like a giant shrimp with too many eyes. "They are mammals," Dr. Plix said. "They live for about 100 years. They need water and oxygen. Their bodies are weak compared to most species we know, but... but what?" Several council members asked at the same time. Dr. Plix's energy form pulsed with worry. Their psychological tests show very strange patterns. They are extremely territorial. They will fight over things that have no real value. When threatened, they become violent in ways that make no logical sense. She made new pictures appear. These showed humans fighting wars on their home planet. The council members watched in horror as the humans used terrible weapons against each other. Cities turned to ash. Millions died in battles over small pieces of land. They have fought wars on their planet for their entire history, Dr. Plix continued. Even now, when they travel to the stars, they fight each other. 3 of their colonies have already had wars between different human groups. Counselor Nefter's crystal body rang like a bell as he spoke. They sound like a disease. If we let them spread, they will bring chaos to the entire galaxy. "I agree," said Admiral Zekthara. "In my military opinion, they are a virus that will consume everything they touch. They must be stopped before they grow stronger." The council talked for hours. Members wanted to try talking to the humans first. Others wanted to study them. More, but most agreed with the Admiral. The humans were too dangerous to ignore. Finally, the council voted. 12 voices said yes. 0 said no. The humans would be taught their place in the galaxy. "We will send the 3rd Fleet," Admiral Zekthara announced. "We will destroy 3 of their colonies as a demonstration. When they see our power, they will surrender and accept our rule." This is how we have always done things. Dr. Plix looked uncertain. Admiral, what if they do not surrender? Admiral Zekthera laughed, a sound like breaking metal. Look at their ships, Doctor. Look at their weapons. They are children playing. With toys, my fleet has 847 ships with energy shields and weapons that can destroy planets. The humans have metal boxes that shoot bullets. He turned to face the whole council. The humans will learn that the galaxy belongs to civilized species. They will follow our rules or be removed. The council meeting ended. Admiral Zekthera walked to his ship with confidence. He had fought in dozens of wars. He had conquered primitive species before. The humans would be no different, as his massive fleet prepared to jump to human space. The Admiral recorded his final message before the battle. This is Admiral Zekthara of the Hegemony Third Fleet. Today we begin Operation Cleansing Dawn. We will teach the humans their place in the galactic order. I estimate they will surrender within 72 hours of our first attack. He looked out at his fleet. 800 ships filled with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Soldiers from 12 different worlds, all trained for war. Energy. Shields that could stop any primitive weapon. The humans will learn that there are consequences for disturbing the peace, the Admiral said to himself. After today, they will be grateful that we allowed them to live. The fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. Their destination was a human mining colony called New Aberdeen. It had over 2 million humans and very few defenses. Be the perfect place to show these primitives the power of civilization. Admiral Zekthar settled into his command chair and smiled. By this time tomorrow, the human problem would be solved. The galaxy would be safe once again. He had no idea that he was about to make the biggest mistake in the history of the Hegemony Council. Governor Sarah Chen was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the command center of New Aberdeen Colony and stared at the screens in shock. 800 alien ships had just appeared at the edge of their solar system. How long until they reach us? She asked her defense chief. 3 hours, maybe less, Captain Rodriguez answered. His face was pale. Governor, we only have 6 missile platforms. They won't even scratch that fleet. Sarah looked at the massive alien ships on the screen. Each one was 10 times bigger than the largest human vessel. They moved through space like graceful whales, their hulls shining with strange energy. Send them a message, Sarah ordered. Tell them we want to talk. Don't we surrender if they want us to surrender? Just don't let them kill 2 million people. The message went out on all frequencies. Sarah spoke calmly into the camera, even though her hands were shaking. Unknown alien vessels. This is Governor Sarah Chen of New Aberdeen Colony. We are peaceful miners and farmers. We want to talk. If we have done something wrong, we will fix it. Please respond. The aliens responded with laser fire. The colony's 6 defense platforms exploded like fireworks. The alien fleet moved closer to the planet and began shooting energy beams at the surface. The mining facilities vanished in bright flashes. Duh! Spaceport became a crater. All civilians to the deep shelters, Sarah shouted over the noise of explosions. Emergency Protocol 7. Move, move, move. The people of New Aberdeen had practiced this drill many times. Earth's government had warned all colonies that they might face attack from unknown enemies. Every human settlement had underground shelters. Built deep into rock, Sarah watched from the command bunker as millions of people disappeared into the earth like ants. The alien ships kept firing, but they seemed confused. Their weapons were designed for space battles and surface targets. The deep tunnels and caves were harder to reach. Captain Marcus Webb had been a soldier on Earth before becoming a colonial administrator. Now he found himself leading a war he never wanted to fight. He gathered all the security officers and mining supervisors in the deepest shelter. Listen up, Marcus said to the crowd of scared faces. Those aliens think we're going to roll over and die? They're wrong. We've got 2 million people in these tunnels, and we're going to keep them alive. How? Asked Jenny Park, the head of mining operations. We don't have any real weapons. Marcus smiled grimly. Jenny, you run the biggest mining operation in 3 sectors. You've got enough explosive charges to move mountains. You've got acid for processing, or you've got heavy machinery that can dig through solid rock. Understanding dawned on the faces around him. These weren't just civilians anymore. They were people with industrial tools and the knowledge to use them. The alien ground troops landed. 6 hours later, they came down in sleek dropships and marched across the burning surface with confidence. The Vorthok soldiers were 3 meters tall and covered in armor that shimmered with energy shields. They carried weapons that fired beams of pure destruction. The first Vorthok. Squads entered the tunnel networks expecting to find terrified humans hiding in the dark. Instead, they found empty corridors that stretched deep into the planet's crust. "Where are they?" growled Commander Thexkar over the radio. His forearms held different weapons as he led his squad deeper underground. The answer came in the form of an explosion that collapsed 50 meters of tunnel behind them. The Vorthok found themselves trapped in a maze of passages that the humans knew perfectly, and they did not know at all. Marcus Webb watched the alien soldiers through hidden cameras. He spoke quietly into his radio to teams of miners and technicians scattered throughout the tunnel system. Team 3. They're coming to Junction 47. Wait until they're all inside, then blow it. Team 6. Release the acid in Tunnel B. Make sure it looks like an accident. Humans fought like nothing the Vorthok had ever faced before. They used mining explosives to collapse tunnels on the alien soldiers. They released industrial chemicals that ate through alien armor. They attacked from hidden passages and disappeared before the aliens could fight back. The Vorthok were trained for honorable battle between soldiers. They were not trained for warfare against an entire population that had turned their home into a weapon. Commander Thexkar found his squad trapped in a tunnel that was slowly filling with poisonous gas. The humans had diverted the atmosphere processing system to pump toxic mining fumes into the alien-controlled areas. "Command, we need support," he radioed to the surface. "These humans are not fighting like a normal species. Entire colony is a weapon." Above ground, Admiral Zekthera watched the battle reports with growing concern. His ground forces were taking heavy casualties in what should have been a simple occupation. The humans were using tactics that no civilized species would consider. "They are fighting with industrial chemicals," reported Colonel Vextar. "They are collapsing their own infrastructure to trap our forces. This is not normal warfare." The Admiral's red eyes flashed with anger. "They are primitives with crude weapons. Press the attack. We will teach them the price of resistance." But the human resistance only grew stronger. Teams of miners used their knowledge of underground geology to create massive cave-ins that buried entire alien platoons. Engineers rigged the colony's power systems to explode when aliens tried to use them. Even the children helped by crawling through ventilation shafts to plant explosives. On the third day, Marcus Webb sent a message to all the other human colonies in the sector. His face on the screen was dirty and covered with cuts, but his eyes burned with determination. "This is Marcus Webb at New Aberdeen. We are still fighting. The aliens are not invincible. They bleed just like we do. Their armor stops energy weapons. But it does not stop good old-fashioned explosives. Their shields work fine in space, but down here in the tunnels, they die just like anyone else." He held up a piece of alien armor that his people had stripped from a dead Vorthok soldier. "We are learning how their technology works. We are adapting their weapons. And we are making them pay for every meter of tunnel they take." To all human colonies receiving this message, prepare for war. Fight dirty, fight smart, and make these bastards regret they ever heard of the human race. The battle for New Aberdeen lasted 6 days instead of the 6 hours Admiral Zekthora had predicted. When the colony finally fell, 40% of his ground forces were dead or wounded. The surviving humans had fought to the very last tunnel before finally being overwhelmed. But the damage was done. Marcus Webb's message had reached every human colony in 3 sectors. The other targeted colonies, New Kilimanjaro and Kepler Station, had used those 6 days to prepare their own defenses. Admiral Zekthara stared at the casualty reports and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. In 3 small battles against primitive humans, He had lost more soldiers than in a century of maintaining galactic peace. The humans were supposed to surrender after seeing superior technology. Instead, they had adapted their industrial tools into weapons of war. They fought with a ferocity that defied logic and a cunning that turned their own homes into fortresses. As his fleet prepared to attack the next human colony, Admiral Zekthara realized that something had gone terribly wrong with their calculations. These humans were not like other primitive species they had conquered. These humans were something far more dangerous. The message from New Aberdeen reached Earth 3 days after the colony fell. President Martinez sat in the underground bunker beneath Washington and watched Marcus Webb's final transmission over and over again. Each time, his anger grew stronger. "Show me the casualty reports," he ordered his military chief. General Thompson put the numbers on the main screen. 7 million humans dead across 3 colonies, Mr. President. The aliens gave no warning. They offered no terms. They simply started killing. President Martinez stood up and looked around the room at the leaders of every major nation on Earth. For the first time in human history, they were all working together. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said quietly, "they have made their intentions clear. This is not a territorial dispute. This is not a misunderstanding. They want to exterminate our entire species." The Chinese premier leaned forward. "What do you propose?" "Total war," President Martinez replied. "Every factory, every shipyard, every resource on every human world gets turned to one purpose, making them pay for what they have done." Before way. Every resource on every way. Every resource on every resource on every way. Well, Wefer why? In Gwes of why? Well, why? Going to way, well, why? When west of well, why? West of well, west of well, west of well, west of well, when well, when an entire species mobilized for WAR. Dr. Alina Vasquez ran the Combined Defense Initiative from deep bunkers carved into the Swiss mountains. She had been a theoretical physicist before the aliens came. Now she was the person in charge of turning human civilization into a weapon. "Report," she said to her staff as they gathered around the holographic displays. "Earth's moon has been converted to a shipyard," reported Admiral Singh. "We are building ships faster than we ever thought possible. Mars is retooling all terraforming equipment to manufacture weapons. The asteroid miners are building kinetic bombardment platforms." Alina nodded. "What about the corporations? Every major company has switched to war production," said Director Chen. "Toyota is building spacecraft engines. Boeing is making hull plating. Even the fast food companies are producing military rations." The speed of human adaptation amazed everyone, including the humans themselves. Within 6 months, Earth went from a peaceful trading civilization to a military machine that operated on every world humanity had ever touched. The hegemony intercepted human communications and discovered their second major mistake. They had thought human disunity was a weakness. Instead, it became their greatest strength. The Americans brought their industrial capacity and military experience. The Chinese contributed their manufacturing expertise and massive workforce. Europeans provided advanced engineering and precision manufacturing. The Russians shared their weapons technology and tactical doctrine. But it was not just the big nations. Every human group contributed something. African nations provided rare minerals. Small island countries offered their shipyards. Even criminal organizations donated their smuggling networks to move supplies. Dr. Plix monitored the human war effort from the hegemony command ship. Her energy form flickered with distress as she watched the intercepts of human communications. "Admiral," she said to Zekathar, "we need to reassess our strategy. The humans are not responding as we predicted." Admiral Zekthara was studying battle reports from the 3 colony attacks. His red eyes were dim with fatigue. Explain. We assumed their primitive technology meant primitive thinking, Dr. Plix replied. But their military doctrine is extremely sophisticated. They have been preparing for interstellar warfare since they first reached space. She displayed intercepted human documents on the command center screens. Military manuals, science fiction stories, strategic simulations, all dealing with the same scenario, fighting technologically superior aliens. They call it asymmetric warfare, Dr. Plix continued. Every human military academy teaches it. Every human science fiction story explores it. They have spent decades thinking about how to fight enemies exactly like us. Admiral Zekthara studied the documents with growing unease. The humans had war colleges dedicated to studying alien contact scenarios. They had strategic plans for fighting enemies with energy shields, faster-than-light travel, and planet-destroying weapons. This cannot be right, the Admiral muttered. They are a young species. How could they know? Because they fight each other constantly, Dr. Plix answered. They have been studying warfare for their entire history. When they reached space, they simply applied the same thinking to interstellar conflict.
Ow.
The first human counterattack came. 6 months after New Aberdeen, a fleet of crewed human ships attacked the hegemony listening post at Proxima Centauri. The aliens expected an easy victory against primitive vessels. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered. An enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Human ships loaded with nuclear weapons flew directly into hegemony vessels, ignoring all defensive fire. Crews of volunteers steered their ships into collision courses, using their own deaths as weapons. Other human ships fired clouds of metal projectiles that overwhelmed alien point defenses through sheer volume. Listening post was destroyed. Every hegemony ship in the system was either sunk or damaged. The human fleet was also mostly destroyed. But they had achieved their objective. The message they broadcast on all frequencies was simple. You wanted a war? You have one. Back on Earth, Dr. Alina Vasquez received the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The attack on Proxima Centauri had been a test of human tactics against alien technology. The results were better than expected. We lost 60 ships, reported Admiral Singh. But we proved their shields can be overwhelmed with enough kinetic energy. Their energy weapons are powerful but have limited firing rates. Most importantly, they are not prepared for kamikaze tactics. Alina nodded. Increased production of suicide drones. Double the output of kinetic bombardment platforms. Start the special project. Which special project? Admiral Singh asked. Alina smiled grimly. The one where we build ships using their own technology. Human engineering teams had been studying the wreckage from New Aberdeen for months. Pieces of alien armor, weapon fragments, computer cores, all carefully analyzed and reverse engineered. The humans could not duplicate alien technology exactly, but they could understand how it worked. More importantly, they could find ways to make it work with human systems. 6 months later, the first hybrid human ship launched from Earth's moon. It looked like a human vessel, but it had alien-derived shields and weapons. The fusion of human engineering with alien technology created something neither side had expected. Admiral Zekthara received reports of human fleets. It's growing larger every month. 2,000 ships became 3,000, then 5,000. New vessel was more advanced than the last as humans incorporated stolen alien technology into their designs. How is this possible? He demanded of his intelligence officers. They are primitives. They should not be able to adapt our technology. Colonel Vextar displayed the latest analysis. Sir, human neural structure is extremely flexible. They learn and adapt faster than any species we have encountered. Every engagement teaches them new lessons. The colonel showed video of human engineers working on captured alien equipment. They tore apart sophisticated devices with crude tools, figured out how they worked, then rebuilt them using human manufacturing techniques. They are not trying to copy our technology exactly, the colonel explained. They are learning the principles and applying them in their own way. The result is hybrid technology that combines our capabilities with their manufacturing speed. Admiral Zekthara stared at the reports in disbelief. The war that was supposed to last 3 days had been going on for over a year. The humans had not only survived but grown stronger. Worse, they were spreading. Human fleets had established bases in asteroid fields and on rogue planets. They were building hidden shipyards and systems the hegemony had never mapped. Every week brought reports of new human colonies in places that should have been impossible. "To reach, sir," said Dr. Plix, "I recommend we consider negotiation." Admiral Zekthara's forearms trembled with rage. "Negotiation? With primitives who use suicide attacks and chemical weapons?" "Sir," Dr. Plix replied carefully, "they may be primitive, but they are winning." The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing the current state of the war. Red indicators marked hegemony losses. Blue showed human positions. The blue markers were spreading like an infection across the galaxy. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zekthara began to wonder if the hegemony had made an enemy they could not defeat. The humans were no longer just defending their colonies. They were actively hunting hegemony forces, using tactics that seemed designed to cause maximum psychological damage. They broadcast messages on all frequencies, promising to protect any species that had suffered under hegemony rule. They offered alliance to rebel groups the hegemony had been fighting for decades. Worst of all, they kept their promises. The humans had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that grew stronger through warfare, learned faster. Under pressure, refused to accept defeat under any circumstances, Admiral Zekthara realized with growing horror that the hegemony had not just declared war on humanity. They had awakened something that might destroy them all. 2 years after the first attack on New Aberdeen, the Hegemony Council met again in their crystal station. But this time, the mood was very different. The 12 alien species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were afraid. Counselor Neftere's crystal body rang with stress as he spoke. "We have lost control of 6 entire sectors. The humans are everywhere. They build bases in places we cannot find and attack us when we least expect it." Admiral Zekthara stood before the council, but he no longer looked confident. His gray skin was pale, and his forearms shook slightly. The great military leader who had promised to defeat humanity in 3 days now faced a war that had lasted 2 years with no end in sight. "Show them the latest reports," ordered the council leader. Dr. Plix's energy form flickered as she displayed the current state of the war. The holographic map of the galaxy was covered in red markers showing destroyed hegemony facilities. Blue markers showed human positions, and there were far too many of them. "The humans now have over 8,000 ships," Dr. Plix reported. "They have established military bases on 200 worlds. Worst of all, they are using weapons that we consider illegal under all galactic laws." Counselor Telvin, the tree-like being, rustled his branches nervously. "What kind of weapons?" "Biological weapons that target specific alien species," Dr. Plix answered. "Chemical weapons that eat through our hull materials. Nuclear weapons deployed in massive quantities, something they call planet crackers." The council members made sounds of horror. Planet crackers were weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. No civilized species had used them for millennia. "But the worst part," Dr. Plix continued, "is that they are not fighting like any species we have ever encountered. They target civilian infrastructure. They attack medical ships. They use psychological warfare designed to terrify us." Admiral Zekthara activated a recording from the most recent battle. The voice that came from the speakers was calm and human, but the words chilled every alien in the room. "Attention! Hegemony forces. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. We have surrounded your base on Kepler 7. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel. After that, we will demonstrate what happens to species that try to exterminate humanity." The recording continued with the sound of explosions. The human fleet had not just destroyed the military base. They had used weapons that turned the entire planet's surface into molten glass. "They broadcast this message to every hegemony world," Admiral Zekthara said quietly. "They want us to know what they are capable of doing." Counselor Quenth, a giant shrimp-like being, waved his many arms in distress. "This is not warfare. This is terrorism." "No," said Dr. Plix. "This is human warfare. We studied their history, but we did not understand what it meant. When humans fight, they fight too. Completely destroy their enemies. They do not believe in limited war or civilized combat." She displayed more recordings from human history. Images of cities destroyed by atomic bombs, entire countries burned to the ground, millions of people killed in conflicts over ideas and resources. "They have been preparing for this kind of war their entire history," Dr. Plix explained. "What we call terrorism, they call Tuesday. What we consider unthinkable, they consider necessary for survival." The most disturbing part was how fast the humans learned. Every battle taught them new lessons about hegemony technology and tactics. They adapted faster than the aliens could change their strategies. Captain Liu Wei commanded the human ship Retribution, the first vessel built entirely from captured hegemony technology. His crew had spent months learning to operate alien systems, but they had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. "Target the command ship," Leo ordered as his ship approached. "A hegemony battle group. Use their own weapons against them." The Retribution opened fire with energy weapons stolen from destroyed alien vessels. But the human crew had modified the weapons to fire faster and hit harder than the original designs. The hegemony ships found themselves fighting their own technology improved by human engineering. "This is impossible," transmitted the alien commander. "You cannot be using our weapons better than we do." Captain Liu smiled as he replied, "You built these weapons for civilized warfare between honorable opponents. We built them to kill you. As efficiently as possible." Human ship destroyed 3 hegemony vessels before the aliens could adapt to the new threat. But by then, it was too late. The human fleet had arrived. Back in the hegemony council chamber, the reports kept getting worse. The humans were not just fighting a defensive war anymore. They were actively hunting hegemony forces across multiple sectors they have created. "Something they call hunter-killer groups," reported Colonel Vextar. "Small fleets that track down our ships and destroy them using coordinated suicide attacks." "What about their casualties?" asked Counselor Nefter. "Surely they cannot sustain these losses forever." Dr. Plix's energy form pulsed with distress. "Their casualties are enormous. They have lost over 3 million military personnel and destroyed thousands of their own ships. But their population keeps growing." She displayed the most shocking statistic of all. Despite 2 years of total war, the human population had actually increased during the conflict. "They have industrialized reproduction," Dr. Plix explained. "They are raising children in accelerated education programs designed to produce soldiers and engineers. Their entire civilization has become a military machine." Admiral Zekthara looked at the numbers with growing despair. "They are breeding faster than we can kill them." "Gets worse," Dr. Plix continued. "They are not just growing their own population, other species are joining them." The holographic display showed species that had been fighting the hegemony for decades. Rebel groups that had been contained for centuries were now openly allied with humanity. The humans had kept their promise to protect anyone who opposed hegemony rule. "The Cathora Rebellion has joined them," reported Intelligence Officer Mexstar. "So have the Free Worlds Alliance and the Outer Rim Coalition. The humans are providing them with weapons and tactical support." Counselor Telvin's branches drooped. "With defeat, how many species are now fighting against us?" 47 species have declared alliance with humanity," Dr. Plix answered. "Another 63 species have declared neutrality and refused to help us. We are fighting this war essentially alone." The final blow came when the humans captured a hegemony council member during a diplomatic mission. Counselor Yexmar had been traveling to negotiate with a neutral species when human ships surrounded his vessel. The message they received from the humans was simple: "We have your counselor. If you want him back alive, you will listen to our terms." Admiral Zekthara stared at the communication in disbelief. "They captured a council member. How is that possible?" "They have spies in our government," answered Intelligence Officer Mexstar. "They knew about the diplomatic mission before it launched. This was a planned operation." The human terms were transmitted to the council within hours. Complete withdrawal from all human-claimed space. Reparations for the destroyed colonies, recognition of humanity as a sovereign power, and formal apology for starting the war. These are not terms, snarled Admiral Zekthara. These are demands for unconditional surrender. Yes, said Dr. Plix. Quietly, that is exactly what they are. For the first time in galactic history, the hegemony faced an enemy that was not interested in compromise or negotiated peace. The humans wanted total victory and complete submission from their enemies. The council sat in silence. As they contemplated their options, they could continue a war they were clearly losing against an enemy that grew stronger with every battle. Or they could accept terms that would end their dominance of the galaxy forever. What are our military options? Asked the council leader. Admiral Zekthara looked around the room at the faces of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. All of them were looking to him for answers he did not have. We can try to escalate, he said slowly. Bring in more fleets. From the core worlds, use weapons we have banned for centuries. Fight them with the same brutality they use against us. And if we do that? Asked Counselor Nefter. Admiral Zekthara was quiet for a long moment before answering. Then we become as savage as they are, and we still might lose. The truth was clear to everyone in the room, even if no one wanted to say it. The humans had done more than survive the hegemony's attack. They had transformed themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that became more dangerous the more pressure was applied to them. They are not fighting for territory or resources, Dr. Plix observed. They are fighting for the right to exist without interference. It makes them more dangerous than any enemy we have ever faced. Admiral Zekthara nodded slowly. We awakened something in them that should have stayed sleeping. And now we have to live with the consequences. The meeting ended without any decisions being made. But everyone in the room knew that the galaxy had changed forever. The age of hegemony dominance was ending, and the age of humanity was just beginning. 5 years after the first attack on New Aberdeen, Admiral Zekthara stood in his command center and stared at reports that would have been impossible to believe when the war started. The hegemony was losing. The numbers told a story of complete military collapse. The third fleet that had attacked humanity with 847 ships now had fewer than 200 vessels still capable of fighting. The humans, who had started with a few hundred crewed ships, now commanded over 15,000 advanced warships. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, the humans have captured 3 more core worlds this month. They are now only 6 sectors away from the capital. Admiral Zekthara's forearms hung limp at his sides. His red eyes had lost their glow. The proud warrior who had promised to teach humanity their place in the galaxy now faced the reality that humanity had learned its lesson too well. Dr. Plix materialized beside him, her energy form flickering with exhaustion. Admiral, I have completed my final analysis of human psychology. I was wrong about everything. Show me, the Admiral said quietly. Dr. Plix created a holographic display showing human colonies before and after the war. The difference was shocking. What had once been peaceful mining and farming settlements were now military fortresses surrounded by weapon platforms and ship construction yards. Interpreted their territorial behavior as primitive aggression, Dr. Plix explained. Was actually their greatest survival trait. When threatened, humans do not just defend themselves, they evolve. The display showed human population statistics that defied all logic. Despite 5 years of total warfare, humanity's numbers had grown by 30%. They had not just survived the attempt to exterminate them, they had thrived. They have created what they call war generations, Dr. Plix continued. Children raised from birth to fight, engineer, and build weapons. Their entire species has adapted to permanent warfare in ways we never thought possible. Admiral Zekthara watched video feeds from captured human facilities. Teenagers who looked barely old enough to drive were operating spacecraft and maintaining weapons systems. Children were being taught advanced engineering alongside basic reading and writing. They are not the same species that we attacked 5 years ago, Dr. Plix said sadly. We have created something entirely new. The final battle for Counselor Yexmar took place in a simple room aboard the human flagship Retribution. Admiral Sarah Chen, the same woman who had tried to surrender New Aberdeen 5 years earlier, sat across from the alien prisoner. The years of war had changed Admiral Chen as much as they had changed humanity. Her face was scarred from battle. Her hair had turned gray from stress. But her eyes burned with a determination that made the alien counselor step back in fear. "You could have simply asked us to follow your rules," Admiral Chen said in a calm voice. "Most of us would have agreed. We are not naturally violent. We just wanted new homes for our children." She activated a holographic map showing the current state of the galaxy. Red markers showed former hegemony territories now under human control. Blue markers showed human fleet positions. The blue covered almost half the known galaxy. "Instead, you chose to exterminate us without even trying to talk first," Admiral Chen continued. "You taught us that the galaxy is a place where survival depends on being stronger than everyone who wants to hurt you." Counselor Yexmar tried to speak, but Admiral Chen held up her hand for silence. "We have learned your lesson very well," she said. "The question now is what happens next." The holographic display changed to show the hegemony's remaining forces. Less than 3,000 ships scattered across 12 sectors. Compared to humanity's war machine, they looked pathetically small. "Your council has 3 options," Admiral Chen explained. "First, you can keep fighting until we destroy every ship and occupy every world you still control. Second, you can surrender unconditionally and accept our terms for peace. Third, you can try to negotiate something between complete victory and total defeat." She leaned forward and looked directly into the alien's large eyes. "But understand this. We are not the same species you attacked 5 years ago. We have become something harder, smarter, and more dangerous than you can imagine." The terms that Admiral Chen presented were not cruel, but they were absolute. Complete hegemony withdrawal from all human-claimed space. Payment of reparations for the destroyed colonies. Recognition of humanity as the dominant military power in the galaxy. Most importantly, formal acknowledgement that any future attack on humanity would result in the complete destruction of the attacking species. "You will also provide us with complete records of all other species in the galaxy," Admiral Chen added. "We want to know who else might decide we are a threat that needs to be eliminated." Counselor Yexmar was returned to hegemony space with Admiral Chen's final message. The human fleet admiral had stood and looked out at the stars as she spoke her last words. "You awakened something in us that we spent centuries trying to control," she said. "Congratulations. You did not just declare war on the most dangerous species alive. You created us." The Hegemony Council's final meeting lasted only 30 minutes. There was no debate about the human terms. Choice was simple: accept defeat or face complete annihilation. The surrender was signed by all 12 species. The hegemony officially dissolved itself and transferred all military authority to the new Galactic Defense Alliance, led by humanity. But the real change went far deeper than political treaties. Species across the galaxy that had lived under hegemony rule for thousands of years suddenly found themselves free. Rebellions that had been suppressed for centuries emerged into the open. Trade routes that had been controlled by alien bureaucrats were open to everyone. The humans kept their promises. They protected species that asked for help. They shared their technology with allies. They built new colonies, not through conquest, but through invitation from local populations. Dr. Alina Vasquez, now Director of Human Colonial Affairs, stood in her office on Luna and looked out at the shipyards that covered the moon's surface. Thousands of vessels were under construction, but these were not warships. They were colony ships, exploration vessels, and trading craft. "Are we doing the right thing?" asked her assistant, a young engineer who had grown up during the war years. Alina considered the question carefully. The hegemony ruled through fear and superior technology. They maintained peace by threatening anyone who stepped out of line. It worked for thousands of years. She pointed to the construction yards where humans and dozens of alien species worked together on new projects. "We are trying something different. We are ruling through strength, but we are using that strength to protect rather than oppress." Assistant nodded. What if someone challenges us the way we challenged the hegemony? Elena smiled grimly. Then they will learn the same lesson the hegemony learned. Humanity does not start fights, but we finish them. The galaxy had indeed changed. Forever, the peaceful human colonists who had wanted nothing more than new worlds for their families were gone. In their place stood a species that had been forged in the fires of interstellar war into something unprecedented. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not seek to rule other species or extract tribute from weaker civilizations. But they had made it clear that any threat to human existence would be met with overwhelming and decisive force. Trade flourished under human protection. Scientific discovery accelerated as species shared knowledge freely. Art and culture bloomed. As civilizations no longer feared punishment for stepping outside rigid hegemony guidelines, but underneath the prosperity was an understanding that everyone shared. Humanity had become the galaxy's guardian, and guardians were only as effective as their willingness to use violence when protection required it. Admiral Roll Zikthara spent his final years writing a memoir that became required reading in military academies across the galaxy. His conclusion was simple but profound. We sought to teach a primitive species their place in the galactic order. Instead, we learned that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. Humanity fought not for conquest or glory, but for the right to exist. That made them unstoppable. The book's final page contained a warning that echoed through space for generations to come. Never mistake kindness for weakness or civilization for softness. The humans taught us that the most peaceful species can become the most terrible when their survival is threatened. The galaxy is safer under their protection, but it is also more dangerous for anyone foolish enough to threaten them. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of humanity had begun. And the lesson was clear to every species in the galaxy: when you attack humans, you do not get prisoners, or negotiations, or second chances. You get war, and war with humanity was something no species could win.